Mitchell Palmer targeted the most with the Espionage Act? Or do you know who enforced the Espionage Act the most? A. Mitchell Palmer. And then do you know who he targeted? Socialist, anarchist, communist, activist, anti-war activist. People that actually had an opinion about things that weren't just, blind, allegiant, patriotic drones. They actually had, thoughts about something. National security state, by overclassifying documents that there's no reason to keep secret other than the devotion to the cult of secrecy for its own sake. So the Espionage is a bunch of fucking bullshit. Fuck the Espionage Act. Fuck Woodrow Wilson and fuck his Espionage Act. 1988 is the Hustler v. Falwell case. Hustler v. Falwell. So this is Larry Flint, who's the publisher of Hustler, a nudie magazine, against Jerry Falwell, a evangelist, a respected Christian man who has a flock of Christian followers, and he does good Christian works. So, what is the holding of Hustler v. Falwell? Hustler's going to win. Larry Flint is going to win this case, and this is a good thing for the First Amendment. So, the holding is a knowingly false statement said maliciously is the only thing that's not protected by the First Amendment. So, when it comes to libel, when it comes to slander, if you knowingly say something false, and you said it maliciously with the intent of spreading it to other people, then that is not protected by the First Amendment. But sarcasm and parody, these are A-OK against public figures. So the nudie magazine Hustler had published a parody of Jerry Falwell, a Christian evangelist, where they published a fake full-page advertisement that looked like Jerry Falwell was selling some Campari, some kind of alcoholic beverage. So you got Jerry Falwell, his picture's there on the page, and then it's got some wine glass or some wine, and it's talking about his first time. And it's entitled, Jerry Falwell Talks About His First Time, meaning the first time he had sex. And it's written in a dialogue format, so it looks like the interviewer is asking Jerry Falwell questions, and he's, responding. And at first, the Hustler ad has Jerry Falwell saying, my first time, this is the very beginning of the conversation. So Jerry Falwell, his name, ... and it says, my first time was in an outhouse outside Lynchburg, Virginia. Interviewer then asked, wasn't it a little bit cramped in an outhouse? He was in the outhouse, and Jerry Falwell said, not after I kicked the goat out. Not after I kicked the goat out, which was pretending that Jerry Falwell himself said himself that he was fucking a goat. It was cramped until they kicked the goat out. And then later on, Falwell goes on and talks about how he had engaged in a drunken, incestuous relationship, had sex with his mother in the outhouse. So Jerry Falwell is pissed. He saw this and he's mad. And he's like, this cannot stand. So he sued Hustler. He sued Larry Flint Magazine Incorporated, Hustler Magazine Incorporated, and he won a $150,000 verdict in the lower courts. So at first, Jerry Falwell looked like he was winning. He won a $150,000 verdict for his pain and suffering that publication in Hustler Magazine had caused him. Now, the Supreme Court is going to overturn the conviction. Hustler's going to appeal. Supreme Court's going to overturn their conviction, and he doesn't have to pay the fine. So the Supreme Court ruled that if freedom of speech trumps a public figure's feelings, as long as the speech cannot reasonably be construed to state actual facts about its subject, then it's okay. It's okay to mock Jerry Falwell and other public figures with exaggerated lies that descend into comic parody from which no real truth can be gleaned or assumed from. So while you can mock Jerry Falwell with a fake advertisement of him saying that he has sex with goats and his mother as a parody, but you can't assert that it's the actual truth. You can't have a complete disregard for the truth, like the 1964 Garrison v. Louisiana case says, nor can you knowingly print a malicious lie, which is the New York Times Company versus Sullivan, 1964. So if Hustler had printed something about Jerry Falwell, which was meant and intended to be truthful, not just a joke or a sarcastic parody, but they had the literal and malicious intent to convey lies and falsehoods about Jerry Falwell, and they're trying to convince others to believe these lies and falsehoods, then that would have been illegal. That's slander. That's libel. but a person cannot be sued for emotional distress in an over-the-top ridiculous parody of which no truth can be found. So, verdict goes for Larry Flynt in Hustler magazine, and Jerry Falwell gets no money at all for his pain and suffering. So it's okay to parody. It's okay to use sarcasm. And there's some limits to free speech. You can't use imminent threatening language. You can't say that person's going to get it right then and there. So it can't have imminent dangerous, qualities to it. It can't be obscene. There's a couple other, can't disclose military secrets, and some other ones. People, agree and disagree on those. But freedom of speech defends sarcasm, and it defends parody. And that's a good thing. Peace. Oh, that's Falwell, Hustler v. Falwell, 1988, Supreme Court case.